Hello friends, in this video we will check how to clone a repository. So what does it mean to clone a repository? We clone a repository because we want to work on our local system, and we just saw in previous videos that the repositories, Git repositories we have created on web or in the cloud, and we saw the famous two of the providers. One is GitHub and one is Bitbucket. So if we want to see again, this is the GitHub repository that we created in previous videos. If you missed the video, you can go back and get a reference how we created this repository step by step. So we just created this repository, and also we put a Java file into it, and similarly we also created a repository in Bitbucket, that is another Git repository provider with the same name. Here another repository is existing, Git concepts, but here we see that we have not put the Java file yet. If we try to modify this concepts.java file, we can modify it here also. Git provides an option to edit the file, and if I try to put a comment here, it will ask again for the commit message that what I am changing. So I say put comment on main method in say commit changes. Now this Java file git concepts.java has been changed here. I will just close this information here. So we see that our comment is here, but this is not how we code. We don't code on the web browsers. We code on IDEs like Eclipse or IntelliJ IDEA or just a notepad, but we do it on our local system. In order to modify this git concepts.java file or any other file those are residing here in this repository, we need to have this code on our local system. We can modify the code on our local system and then put the code back or our changes back into the repository. This is how we program, we develop, and we do with the Git. So if we want to have these code files on our local system or entire directory structure which is under Git concepts, for example this repository, on our local system, we call this process cloning. Cloning a repository means get the contents of that Git repository on your local system. In order to do that, in GitHub we see a button like this, clone or download. When we click on this, it gives us a URL that is used for cloning this. There is also a button use SSH. When we click on this, the URL is changed and it starts with git@github.com. But when we use HTTPS, it starts with HTTPS. So there are two methods, HTTPS and SSH. Which is better? It is explained here on GitHub help page which one is better and which one is recommended. But in a broad way, the HTTPS is recommended, and this is because HTTPS method clone URLs are available on all repositories, whether it is public or private, and these URLs work even if you are behind a firewall or proxy, and this is also a recommended method. So we will use this HTTPS method in our tutorials. There is a friendly copy button which copies the URL into your clipboard. Once you copy the URL, let's switch to the Git Extensions tool that we have already installed. If we open the Git Extensions tool, the first page looks like this. And there is an option called Clone Repository. And that's what we are trying to do, clone a repository. It automatically detects what you have been copied from the browser, but you can always paste a customized URL if you want. But in this case, this is correct. And to be sure, this is the URL that is shown here. Then it is asking on which destination I should clone this repository to. So I will create a directory here on my local system. Git Repositories. And give this path to the destination. It is also saying me that it will create a directory called Git Concepts, which is the name of the directory in a repository. And then it will clone to the local system. After selecting these options and filling up these URLs and destination, I can say clone. So if everything goes well, you will see a green tick mark here, and it will show the message if we have done it using the command line git. These messages will appear on the console, but as we are trying to use GUI for this purpose, that is Git Extensions tool, these commands are displayed in this GUI pop-up, but we can still see that what's going on in between. We say OK, and it is asking for this is the repository that you have just cloned. Should I show the contents of the repository to you? I will say yes. Okay, so what it is showing me right here in the toolbox, it is showing me that what are the changes those have been done in the repository. And these are exactly the changes that we can see here. Like these changes. And it is showing me that from where I have cloned this repository. To see that from which URL we have cloned this repository, we click right click on remotes and say manage. And if we expand this, we can see there is one note here. If you click on this, this is the URL from which this repository has been cloned. Okay. Once we have cloned the repository, let's go to the directory and look at the contents, what is cloned. So it has created a directory called Git Concepts here. Inside this directory, there are two files, readme.md and gitconcepts.java. If we see at the contents of gitconcepts.java, we see exactly the content that we have put into our repository. So now we have all the contents, those are present in this repository, gitconcepts.java and readme.md file on our local system. Okay, so this was how we clone a repository from GitHub using this tool Git Extensions. If we want to clone a repository from Bitbucket, so in Bitbucket, if you open the repository, which is with the same name, in this case, Git Concepts, you see a 3 dots here. When you click here, you will see these options. Either you can download the repository directly from the here, or you can say clone. And here again, you will see the two methods, HTTPS and SSH. So we will use HTTPS. And here it is, Bitbucket is showing you the full command that you need to execute on the command line tool. But we are not using command line. So we need just this part, that is starting from HTTPS. And similarly, you will start your Git Extensions tool. You will say clone repository, and you will put the URL from the Bitbucket in this case, and you can provide the destination and say clone, and the code will be cloned onto your local system. So this is how we clone a repository that is existing on web to our local system. And this process of getting the contents of a web repository to your local system is known as cloning in the Git world. So we will proceed in the next videos further how we make the changes on local system and put these changes again back to the web repository. But for now, see you. Happy Gitting. If you like the video, please don't forget to subscribe and like.